5 session 1 of Therapy organized by Chemical Engineering Department, Government Engineering College, Bharuch. We have with us Dr. Kaushik Nath sir as a speaker for today's session. And the topic of presentation is process intensification via strategic integration of membrane operations for sustainable development. Now, it gives me an immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Kaushik Nath sir to all the participants. Dr. Kaushik Nath sir is a professor and head of chemical engineering department in G.H. Patel College of Engineering and Technology, CVM University, Gujarat, India, and has 24 years of teaching and 18 years of research experience. Kaushik Nath sir has obtained his BTech and MTech in Chemical Engineering from Calcutta University and PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. His area of present and past research include nanofiltration, forward osmosis, and per vaporization membrane processes, valorization of biomass, regeneration of spent activated carbon, and biological hydrogen production. Dr. Nath has published over 100 research papers and articles in various peer-reviewed international and national journals, and also in conference proceedings with total citation more than 2644 till date. The H index of his publication now stands at 20, while the I-10 index is 26. He authored a book on membrane separation process from Prentice Hall of India and contributed 8 other book chapters. He was the recipient of the prestigious Innovative Potential Project Award by the Indian National Academy of Engineering in 2007 and the Tech Guru Award of the Gujarat Technological University in 2020 in the field of engineering and technology. A reviewer of several international journals from elsewhere, Stringent, Taylor and Francis, Dr. Nath is a fellow of the Indian Institute of Engineering. He is a member of Board of Studies in Chemical Engineering, Gujarat Technological University, consultant to several chemical industries, member of various professional organizations like Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers, Material Research Society of India, Indian Membrane Society, and Indian Society for Technical Education. Dr. Nath is an external environmental auditor for Schedule 1 Industry, Gujarat Pollution Control Board. He has completed a number of sponsor projects as principal investigator from DST and CFCIR, Government of India, AICTE, Gujarat Council of on Science and Technology. He has supervised total 6 PhD theses candidates and is presently guiding 4 others. So this is the brief introduction of Dr. Kaushik Nath sir. Now I request Dr. Kaushik Nath sir to take the charge of the session and answer, please.
Good morning. Thank you for introducing me. First of all, I am grateful to the organizer of Atal FDC and particularly Department of Chemical Engineering GC Bharuch for inviting me so that we can share some of my experience and these things. So let me start, and I will be sharing my. Is it visible? I will make it in full screen. Is it visible? Yeah. Is the slide visible?
Yes, sir, visible, but not in full screen.
Now is it in full screen?
Sir, yes, now visible.
I think there is some connectivity issue, like it may be delayed by few seconds, so that we have to bear with. Okay, so
Okay, sir.
yeah, our today's topic I have made the title as process intensification via strategic integration of membrane operation for sustainable development. So there are very few terms we are combining. So first of all, process intensification is the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective will be sustainable development. So today we will be discussing some of the membrane operations, basic and applied aspects of those, and how they can be integrated for some process improvement. Okay, so the driving force of the for the world today is these are we call the buzzwords of today's world: globalization, sustainability, partnership, innovation, discovery and development, and finally, inclusive growth. Sustainable development is the economic development that is conducted without depletion of natural resources, without degradation of much degradation of the environment. Then we have partnership. Innovation is an idea that has been transformed into practical reality, some new technology, new process, new product, new type of business, all are included in the innovation. So that is closely associated with discovery and development. And finally, inclusive growth. That means in the economic growth which is distributed across the society, fairly across the society, and creates opportunities for all. Challenges for chemical industries, there are two strategic vectors. On one side, it is conservation driven and consumption driven on another side. So future chemical engineers have to do balance between balance of ecology and economic advantage. So there are various challenges pushed by the increasing demand for materials, new energy sources, new type of products. Today's chemical engineering profession faces a crucial challenge. And finally and ultimately, to support a sustainable industrial growth, that is the major goal for this development. Strategic direction of chemical industries, if we say, now there are in various types, these are the new areas or emerging areas where a lot of research prospects are there, creating new game, new type of energy sources, new materials, smart materials, different types of composite materials. So there are the various generation of materials. Investment in next generation knowledge intensive solutions. Small is beautiful. Maybe we can talk about nanotechnology, application of nanomaterials, application of microreactors. Then energy efficient consumption. Energy efficiency is one of the major challenges. So how to make the process energy efficient, how to reduce the consumption of energy. So all these together, so there is the balance of economy and balance of economic progress. So these are the strategic direction for the chemical industry. Now in this perspective, process intensification, if we look back, in 1983, Colin Ramshaw and his co-workers, they propounded the concept of process intensification. So originally, PI was defined as a reduction in plant size, at least a factor of 100, which was quite challenging number in those days. So in those days, the major focus was given on the improvement of the process performance and reduction of the capital cost. In the 21st century, the focus is slightly shifted to the sustainability of the processes and products, and again, competitiveness has become one of the key objectives. Process intensification in technological toolbox. So in 2009, the first attempt to define fundamentals of process intensification was undertaken by Van Garven and Stan Keely. Now there are four generic principles or objectives of PI that was defined: structure, energy, synergy, and time. Now there are two specific types of development in the process intensification. There are the first type which leads to some improvement, dramatic improvement in the processing by elimination or bypassing limitation of the conventional chemical engineering equipment. And there is another type, which is second type, which development is consisting of a combination of two or more processes or functions. So in our today's presentation, today's lecture, I will focus on how the integration of various processes, integration of membrane processes, and at the same time integration of membrane processes, non-membrane processes, how that can be achieved for better efficiency and better synergy also. Now to define, so let us now try to define process intensity.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Slide is not moving. It's
Which slide is this now?
a driving force for the world today.
There is a problem. So now is it changed? Changes in chemical industry, challenges in chemical industry.
No, sir. Okay, now it's changed.
I mean, whenever I make it in full screen, there is a problem.
No problem, sir. You can continue. Now it's changing, so you can continue now.
Obviously, strategic direction, we talked about chemical industries, then process intensification, we looked at the definition. Now is it visible? Process intensification technological toolbox.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will make it in this way only. So it is to summarize this, we can define it is the development of novel equipment and techniques that compared to those commonly used dramatically improve manufacturing and processing by decreasing substantially equipment size, improving raw material to production ratio, decreasing energy consumption and waste production, and ultimately resulting in cheaper, efficient, safer, and more sustainable technology. But process intensification, there are certain confusion. I mean, this is process intensification concerns only engineering methods and equipment. For example, development of a new chemical route or a change in composition of catalyst, that is also has a positive effect. The improvement they bring to existing technology, they do not qualify as process intensification. So mostly process intensification, we focus on the process, that is the engineering methods and equipment, not particularly on route, chemical route, or not particularly in the development of new catalysts. So why process intensification? So this is a strategy which is needed to achieve the goals of drastic improvement in the manufacturing and processing, decreasing the equipment size, substantial decrease in the equipment size, reduce energy consumption, then boost plant efficiency, reduction of capital cost, increasing safety, minimizing waste production, reducing environmental impact, and finally remote control and automation. So there are many other objectives or many other goals, but these are the major strategic goals for process intensification. So now with this brief background of process intensification, we process intensification approaches. Now, in process intensification, there can be on one side, there can be equipment and there can be methods which can be modified. Now, in equipment, this equipment for carrying out chemical reaction, and there are equipment for operations which not involving directly in the chemical reaction. And there can be different methods like multifunctional reactors, then hybrid separation processes, alternative energy sources, and there may be some other combinations and other methods. Now coming to our topic on the separation process. Let us first focus on the separation process and then membrane and then how process intensification, different integration of the membrane processes can lead to process intensification that we will talk. So separation process is the heart of the chemical processes, petrochemicals, petroleum, refining industry, biochemical process, food processing unit. Everywhere you need separation and purification. Separation and purification is the major part of the downstream operations. More than 40% of capital and operating cost lies in separation process. Now, why separation is required? That we all know that separation is required. Separation is needed to achieve the goals of enrichment, concentration, enrichment of a particular product, concentration, purification, refining, isolation. I mean, these terms are very closely related, but each one has a special significance with respect to a particular process or particular desired product of that process. So enriching the product, concentration of certain product, purification, refining, isolation, so all are the goals of separation. Now these separation processes, advanced separation, we talk about advanced separation. Now why this is required? Because we have all the separation processes, traditional separation processes, all these unit operations, but then why we need advanced separation? So this is, there are different reasons. One of the important reasons what I feel that when a high value product is produced, many a time it is not produced in bulk. So when a product is produced in a very small quantity, separation becomes difficult with the conventional method. So that's why we need the advanced separation for that kind of specialty product. Then there are stringent environmental regulations, then public awareness, and a lot of other things are there. So these days we have to follow a lot of regulations. So better selectivity of the product is another requirement. Then energy consumption is one of the important criteria. Energy consumption, so conventional processes is more energy consuming. For example, distillation. Distillation does not have any alternative process. I mean, distillation is still today, it is regarded as one of the very essential technology. But at the same time, distillation is a highly energy intensive process. It is not a energy saving process. So you can think of combining distillation with some other process, not fully replacing distillation, but at the same time, can we think of supplementing distillation with some other process? For example, like membrane process such as pervaporation can be combined with distillation, because we know that, say for example, alcohol water distillation after certain concentration, there is an azoto formation. So there we may not get the full separation. So there we can use the combination, the pervaporation. So like that, so energy consumption is one of the important criteria. Now this conventional and advanced separation, conventional separation processes are there, a lot of unit operations that we study, traditional processes like distillation, absorption, all these extraction, different types of absorption, crystallization. It's a whole list of conventional processes. All these processes are matured and they are having very well-established methods, well-established protocols are there for these processes. On the other hand, advanced separation processes, membrane separation, then using superphysical fluid foam separation, then PSA, process swing adsorption, chromatography, then sublimation, then electric potential driven separation, all these electroseparation and electrophoresis, all these separation. Then zone refining is used for mineral metallurgical industry. So these are all the advanced separation processes. Now there are many others. Now why we will be focusing on the membrane separation today. Now membrane, why membrane separation, the advantages. There is first of all appreciable energy savings, energy consumption, low energy consumption, because these systems can operate at near room temperature. Then it is clean technology with operational ease. compact and modular design using less space than the cumbersome traditional method. It produces high quality products due to high selectivity of the membrane. It allows recovery of sellable byproducts from waste streams, which increases their profitability. Then greater flexibility in designing systems, ease of incorporation. I mean, easily it can be incorporated to the presently existing industrial plant. So these are briefly the major advantages of the membrane separation process. Now, if we talk a little bit of basics of these things, why, what is a membrane? Membrane is a, it's just a barrier. It's a skin. In Latin, it means skin. So it can be defined essentially as a barrier which selectively can allow the transport of certain species, and at the same time they can restrict the transport of certain other species. So it's a selectively it can pass. Semi-permeable membrane we call. That means the membrane is permeable to liquid and permeable to solvents and not permeable to solute. So it's semi-permeable. So like that, membrane can be. So according to IUPAC, membrane is a structure having lateral dimensions much greater than its thickness through which mass transfer may occur under a variety of driving force. These driving forces may be pressure driven, maybe concentration gradient, then maybe there are electrical potential driven. So there are various driving forces. Mostly pressure driven membrane force membrane separations are most popular. So we talk to this. We talk reverse osmosis and others. Okay, so membrane can be homogeneous, it can be heterogeneous, symmetric, asymmetric in structure. It can be solid, it can be liquid. Liquid, I mean, emulsion membrane also is possible. It can carry charges, sometimes, it can be negatively charged or it can be sometimes neutral charge. The membrane thickness may vary from as small as 100 micron to several millimeters. Okay, it can be made of polymeric as well as inorganic material. Now, membrane technology, there are, these four are the major aspects. One, separation, then it can be contacting, then immobilization, and also control release of certain solutes, of certain particles, or certain molecules. So these four different types. Now, use of membrane technologies we can divide in three major types: molecular separation, then chemical transformation, mass and energy transfer between phases. Now, in molecular separation, there are these four. Mostly these are pressure-driven membrane processes: MF, UF, NF, and RO. Microfiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis. Then there is chemical transformation. Membrane reactor is a very good example of this, and then catalytic membrane reactor, and then MBR is membrane bioreactor. Apart from this mass and heat transfer between phases, there are many innovations has been taken place in these membrane applications: contactor, membrane contactor, distillation, membrane distillation, emulsifier, stripper, and scrubber, and there are many more. Now, diversity of membrane separation process, there can be mostly this physical process. There are few processes which can be considered as chemical process. Now, if we mostly it is physical process, and here it is pressure-driven process, diffusional process, heat process, and electric process, where the pressure-driven processes are most widely used now industrially also. Microfiltration, MF, UF, NF, RO, and gas separation. In diffusional processes, evaporation, fast suction, and dialysis, membrane extraction, absorption. And there is heat process, membrane distillation, vacuum membrane distillation, and also electrodialysis, electrical potential gradient gas process. Now this type of classification is there, but apart from this, there is I suggest this classification is on the basis of technological maturity. So we call some technologies as developed technologies. These are very well developed technologies. Now in every household you are having reverse osmosis. All these desalination industry, this is dependent on reverse osmosis process. And reverse osmosis, membrane gas separation, ultrafiltration, microfiltration, all these processes, nanofiltration and dialysis, these are considered to be developed technology. Now, second is developing technology. That means it is still, still it is under research scale, and not many commercial processes are developed for this kind of technology. So these are developing technology for evaporation, where permeation, evaporation taking place at the same place. Membrane distillation, pressure retarded osmosis, or forward osmosis. I will briefly discuss some of these things. Reverse electrodialysis is there. Then membrane crystallization, and there are a few more. But there is still some processes which we call to be developed technology. It is not yet developed. So still largely on research scale. Facilitated transport or diffusional transport. Facilitated transport is like, carrier mediated transport. There will be a carrier which will help in the transportation of the solute. For example, in biological system, we find get examples of this facilitated transport, like oxygen transport in blood via hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin can be considered as a carrier. The oxyhemoglobin complex, maybe you know this. So there are different other carriers which can transport the solute. So that is called carrier mediated transport or facilitated transport. Now membrane-driven processes based on size on range of the solute. Now these are pressure-driven membrane process, and these are their driving force is the pressure difference in applied pressure and osmotic pressure. Now there are four important processes. Now you see there is a scale from, if you go from left side to right side, this is increasing, pore diameter increasing. At the same time, if you look here, you see the solute particle size also increases. Now reverse osmosis, it can only allow formation of water and not salt. And then nanofiltration, the next is nanofiltration, which is a bridge between reverse osmosis or ultrafiltration. And then if you move further, ultrafiltration and then microfiltration, you can have more larger size solute particles that can be handled by these membrane processes. So there are some examples of the solute particles that can be separated by these processes. Now in this slide you can see some examples, more examples. Now this molecular weight increases, the particle size increases. As the particle size increases, you can see the pressure requirement is also decreases. Pressure requirement is decreases. That's why microfiltration, you need least pressure, applied pressure, because particle size is more, so osmotic pressure will be less. Whereas in reverse osmosis, since particle size is very less, the salt particles, and your osmotic pressure will be very high. High osmotic pressure means to overcome that high osmotic pressure, you need to give more applied pressure. Hydrostatic pressure will be more. Okay, so that osmotic pressure we can calculate by using Van 't Hoff equation. You know that. Now membranes, there are polymeric membrane and inorganic membrane. Polymeric membrane concept of a membrane reactor was first successfully proven in bioreactor applications. Polymeric membranes are widely used, but polymeric membrane there is certain limitation. Means at high temperature we cannot use for all high temperature operation, because there is chances of swelling of the membrane may take place. Now polymer can be cross-linked, or you have to increase the mechanical strength of the polymer by incorporation of certain cross-linking agent or by certain other processing that can be done. And so one option is that you go for inorganic membrane and then go for ceramic membrane, or some other membrane. Okay, so that is also there, which can withstand high temperature. Next, membrane hardware. So membrane hardware is, you know that membrane materials can be polymeric material, ceramic, glass, metal. Then there are different types of modules. Then homogeneous, non-porous, microporous, symmetric and asymmetric ion exchange. These types can be there. Symmetric means identical structure or property over the entire cross section, and asymmetric means structure property variation will be there across the membrane thickness. So there are various types, various modules, and structural morphological differences will be there in the membrane. Now there is a variety of modules. Modules means the housing, where you will be housed, that where the membrane is housed. Okay, it can be flat sheet membrane or flat film type, hollow fiber membrane, tubular configuration, then spiral wound configuration, plate and frame, like just like plate and frame filter press, monolithic, transversal flow capillary module, and different others. There are different types. Basic types are there, but just to improve the performance of the membrane, to increase the flux, to reduce the fouling propensity. Sometimes these modules are changed, rotating this module, or maybe to impart the that turbulence. So there are different other methods for this. So these are the some modules. And then membrane synthesis methods. I will not go into the details of these. There are various methods of membrane synthesis. Mostly these are for polymeric membrane manufacturing, interfacial polymerization, melt pressing, film stretching, then sol gel, peptidation. There are different other processes like trackage method, phase inversion methods are there. Okay, so let me see this slide. And then membrane structure, and these are some of the photographs of cross-sectional views scanning electron microscopic image. Polysulfone membrane in asymmetric membrane. This is a symmetric membrane polysulfone. Casting method is done by casting, solution casting method. This is an asymmetric membrane, is alpha alumina zirconia. It is an organic membrane. It's a sintering method. It is done in sintering method. Then there are few more structures: symmetric material glass method, sintering method, and then symmetric material polypropylene stretching method, and then trackage method, polycarbonate method. So these are some of the membrane structures. Now we call mostly, you might have heard this name, TLC. We call thin layer composite membrane. So nowadays composite membrane is widely used for composite membrane has good mechanical strength and also good permeation property. So you have to select that which type of active layer is used. So composite membrane is created by stacking one after another, stacking various thin layers of material. So these are the one layer, active layer, then there is a support layer, then there is another mesh. So TFC thin film composite RO membranes are made of 3 layers. An active membrane layer around 50 micrometer thick, then a microporous support layer which will be around 250 micrometer, and then a polyester mesh spacer will be there, the non-woven, so 2 mm. So active membrane is formed directly on the microporous support by interfacial polymerization method. So it will be like it looks like this, like thin layer composite membrane. There is a thin selective layer, then microporous substrate, and then highly porous non-woven jacket. So these layers will be there. We call it composite membrane. Now in RO membrane structure, it's also composite membrane. You just see there is a thin barrier layer, then support layer, then backing. So this will be that fixed side, and this will be facing the permeate side. So here polyamide is a very popular material for membrane, polyamide membrane. Previously, it's cellulose acetate membranes were used, but nowadays cellulose acetate membrane is not much popular. Polyamide and polysulfone membranes are used. So it's polyamide layer and then solvent testing GMA polysulfone layer. So you can see here the specification. Then structure of RO membrane or NS membrane element is just in cross-sectional views, cross-linked aromatic polyamide 0.2 micrometer, then polysulfone layer, then polyester stuff, this one. So this is the structure of composite membrane for use for RO, that is reverse osmosis application. Now, with this brief introduction of this membrane, I start now the schematic of the process, membrane separation process. Now, you see this dotted line at the border is a closed spatial arrangement. You can consider this a module. Now, it is a very simplified diagram where you can see the feed is introduced from in this chamber, and then it will be there will be this is a cross flow type configuration where the feed will pass through this. There is a stirring arrangement can be made sometimes, and this is the membrane through which permeate will come in this. I mean, permeation will take place of the solute, or of the solvent. Permeation will take place, and the retentate or reject will be on this side. So there are three components: feed, then retentate or reject, or we can say concentrate feed, and is the product or permeate. Maybe in most of the cases for water treatment, permeate is our major product, but there may be cases where reject or retentate can also be a product. Suppose, for example, you want to concentrate some mixture, so there can be, so this will be your main product. But for water treatment, mainly permeate is the one. So here there is sweep gas, this is an optional. So sometimes there sweeping is there, sweep is it's optional. And then this is the feed. So there are three parts: feed, retentate, and permeate. You can see feed, and this is the direction of the flow. We call it cross flow membrane. Cross flow velocity is maintained, and this permeate is in this. So QF, if we make total overall material balance, QF equal to QR plus QP, retentate and permeate. Retentate or reject is the same. Now there are two different configurations. One we call cross flow filtration, and another is called dead end filtration. In cross flow is just like this, just how I showed, tangential flow. It will flow in this direction, and permeate will be collected from this side of the membrane. Whereas in dead end filtration, this feed will be introduced and this permeate will be collected at the bottom. Feed will be directly. So dead end filtration is a low permeate rate, and these are not used for commercial application. Mostly these days all cross flow filtration is mostly used. Now this dead end filtration can be used for small scale application in the research laboratories, and mostly cross flow filtration we prefer. Now let us come to the some of the important membrane separation processes: osmosis and reverse osmosis. So osmosis is a natural process. It's a naturally occurring process. It's a very old process which is occurred, which finds its application in many of our daily life activities. Osmosis and then reverse osmosis. Now here we use a semi-permeable membrane. So osmosis, plants depend on osmosis to move water from their roots to the leaves. Osmosis is one of the major process by which plant can take their this water. But not only osmosis, there are certain other methods also, transpiration, cohesion, tension theory and other theories are there. And further towards the edge of the top of the plant, and greater the solute concentration, and this creates a difference in osmotic pressure. Okay, and there will be ultimately it will draw the water upward. Then osmosis protects leaves against losing water through evaporation. Then wilted plant, then green fruits. There is a water loss into the atmosphere and it can be placed into the water to make them fresh and firm again. So water will move into them through osmosis. The preservation of meat by salting and fruits by adding sugar, this protects against bacterial action, and through the process of osmosis, bacterium or sulfate meat loses water, they shrivels and dies. So osmosis has a lot of applications in plants and in daily life also. Now the word osmos, this is originated from the Greek word. Osmosis is originated from the Greek word osmos. It means to push, to push. So you can see here one beaker and which is divided by a thin membrane, selectively permeable membrane, or we call it semi-permeable membrane. We call it semi-permeable membrane because it is permeable to solvent and not to solute. Now there is one side there is a concentrated water solution, concentrated sugar solution, and on the other side there is dilute solution, and then there will be the flow, movement of water. The flow will be from this direction to this direction. Now if we don't see, okay. Now let us look at this figure. Now here you can see in the left side of the compartment it is saline water or brackish water, salt plus water, and on the right side of the compartment it is pure water. Now the flow is from pure water side to salty water side. Now it appears, maybe we know by mistakenly we can think that this water is from low concentration to high concentration. The movement is from low concentration to high concentration, but that is not the case. If we can say that this is from solvent flow from higher concentration to lower concentration. Now, if we can think this in terms of Gibbs free energy, now the simple thermodynamic relation we can have the G equal to H minus Ts, where G is the Gibbs free energy, H is enthalpy, and S is the entropy. Now, if we do not change the temperature, your H and T will be same. Now, what will happen to S? That is entropy. Now, in the second part, on the left side of the compartment where salt water is added, there is, you are adding some external agents and some disturbance you are creating. So here entropy will be high. Okay. So adding any material or solute, here salt, to it results in the increases of entropy. So entropy will increase. So a disorder is created in the system when solute is added. Since S is increased, G will be less according to this equation. G will be less. Okay. Now consider the other side where water pure solvent is right in this compartment. This is the entropy will be very less because this pure compound and no disturbance is there. So ultimately G will be very high in this case. So the flow is from higher Gibbs free energy to lower Gibbs free energy. Or other way we can say the pure solvent in the right compartment, its mole fraction of water is 1 and it's a high chemical potential, and compared to this compartment, the solution compartment, the mole fraction of water will be less than 1, would have a low chemical potential. So it is the flow from higher chemical potential region to lower chemical potential region, or higher Gibbs free energy region to lower Gibbs free energy region. Now in reverse osmosis, what we do, we just reverse the flow of this natural process. So where we are applying applied pressure in this compartment, this is the salt compartment, to overcome the to overcome the osmotic pressure, because very high osmotic pressure will be there, and then reversal of the flow will take place. In this picture, pressure is applied to the salt water solution, and water molecules are being forced out the other side. They are separating the salt and pure water from each other, and salt molecules are too big. So this is the of basis of desalination process. So fresh water. So desalination process. Now reverse osmosis. Yes, this is the process. Reverse osmosis. Only you can see the arrow, and only water can be permeated. Salt, no higher molecular weight compounds, they are all rejected. So that is reverse osmosis, and reverse osmosis is a very matured and highly uh, relevant technology for desalination. So so these are some of the summaries of the reverse osmosis. Driven force is the chemical potential gradient. I can say pressure gradient also. Then transport mechanism is diffusion. Actually, we can apply solution diffusion model. Solution, Henry's law of solution and Fick's law of diffusion, both can be applicable to the mechanism of the transport. Then models, non-porous preferential sorption can also be there. Finely porous reversible thermodynamic model can be there. Okay, so types of different modules can be there: material, cellulose, triacetate, aromatic polyamide, polyether. Polyamide is nowadays it is widely used, but only problem is that in reverse osmosis you need very high pressure. Pressure requirement is very high, so that energy consumption will be little bit high. Now reverse osmosis has extensive applications in the potable water, making of potable water from brackish water or seawater, then ultra pure water for food processing and electronic industry, then pre-concentration of dairy food stream prior to evaporation. We can also use this for pharmaceutical grade water, water for chemicals, pulp and paper industry, and also wastewater treatment. Now, here some information. The largest desalination plant of the world is the Ras Al Khair desalination plant in Saudi Arabia. Around 264 million gallons of drinking water per day. And in India, so far I know, the largest plant is in Chennai, is in Minjur desalination plant. So these are all based on reverse osmosis technology. Even your household, that water treatment unit is also RO unit. So RO is everywhere. So next comes nanofiltration. Nanofiltration is, I say that it is bridging the gap between RO and UF. So in nanofiltration, water can permeate. Also some salts, monovalent and little bit of divalent salts can pass through. Not sugars, amino acids, not proteins, polysaccharides, and these are. So these are permeated and these are rejected. Now nanofiltration membranes have the properties between those of ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis. Now operating pressure for NF is less than 15 bars, and actually it is less than RO. So wherever we can apply RO, we may think of using NF, so that the pressure requirement and energy consumption would be less. So there are certain combinations that can be we can think of. The separation mechanism for nanofiltration is both sieving effect like steric and Donan effect, electrical effect. The combination allows NF membrane to be effective for a range of separation of mixture, organic solutes either neutral or charged and salts. Now it offers a significant advantage. This is a major advantage: lower osmotic pressure difference compared to RO. RO consumes maximum pressure. We have to give maximum pressure in RO. Now high volumetric flux, then flux means throughput, then how much solvent, how much water you are getting per unit time per unit area, then higher retention, multivalent salts, molecular compound, lower maintenance processes. Now, okay, next ultrafiltration. Ultrafiltration is the next comes ultrafiltration. Now ultrafiltration, you can see that water, salt and sugars and amino acids can pass through, can penetrate. But higher molecular weight sugar, supramolecular compound, polysaccharides, particulates, colloidal and microorganisms, they can be rejected in ultrafiltration. Gelatin is obtained by the hydrolysis of collagen, the major intercellular protein constituent of white connective tissue of animal skin and bone. Now this is mostly used in dairy processing industries, in different food processing industries, concentration of fruit juice, whey protein concentration, gelatin de-ashing. Okay, the quality of the finished or refined gelatin depends on mineral salts. Proteinaceous matter imparting haze, haziness to the extract, and color precursors and odor causing constituents. Now here the driving force is pressure gradient, transport mechanism is pore flow. This Hagen-Poiseuille equation, concentration polarization is actually concentration polarization. This is one of the major drawback of the membrane process, where solute particles get deposited on one side of the membrane, and gradually it reduces the driving force, and the flux reduces. So decline of flux takes place. So there are various methods and there are various strategies to reduce the concentration polarization, and ultimately membrane fouling may take place. Okay, so this will be discussed separately. Then pore size 1 to 100 nanometer, flux this liter. Energy consumption is also compared to less than the other two. And so advantages of NF and UF process in brief: high throughput and no phase change, no effluent production, relatively low pressure operation, large temperature variation is possible, easy maintenance of equipment, low energy requirement, easy scalability, small footprint requirement, first that means space requirement is less, and economic operation. Now microfiltration, next is microfiltration. Microfiltration is again, it can handle larger size colloidal particles and larger size particles like protein molecules and some other biomolecules, polysaccharides, some microorganisms also. The low pressure means of separating large molecular weight, suspended or colloidal compounds from dissolved solids. Applications include cell harvesting from fermentation broth, then milk protein fractionation, whey protein fractionation, corn syrup clarification, and many other applications of microfiltration. Enzymes recovery also we can use for. See here, microfiltration for enzyme recovery with ceramic membranes is widely used for the separation of intact cells from enzymes. Whole cells are retained, whereas the enzymes can pass through the membrane and it can be recovered. It's an economically attractive process. In this, there are traditional processes like centrifugation and rotary vacuum filtration. We can avoid this, and we can have better separation in using microfiltration process. Now, this is microfiltration for enzyme recovery. This is a traditional process. Fermentation, after fermentation with centrifugation and then pre-pot filter, then we do ultrafiltration. So here we can use fermentation broth, and then directly you take it to the microfiltration unit and then go for ultrafiltration. So we are combining these two membrane process for a recovery of enzyme, and we are avoiding centrifugation step and pre-pot filter. Now advantage is that the traditional recovery methods used for harvesting of the cells and purifying enzymes, they use centrifugation filter followed by pre-coat filter. Now, centrifugation has certain drawbacks. Means heat production and subsequent protein generation, protein denaturation. Denaturation of the protein means the unfolding of the protein will take place. So that is not desirable. So most notable separation is incomplete since centrifugation relies on differences in density rather than size. Then rotary vacuum filter and other dead end filtration techniques also have disadvantages, like overall yield then is less, and then again separation involves two separate steps. So that's why microfiltration is advantageous in this respect. It is generally more effective at purifying enzyme, resulting at higher product yields while maintaining biological activity. Then there is no need for three-coat filter like diatomaceous earth or perlite, which are generally used as a filter media. Okay, then filter media is costly and you know it is very difficult. Sometimes that is to be eliminated. Cleaning is facilitated and can be carried out whenever it is necessary. Okay, so better control of the process and perhaps most relevant to modern process economics, both the initial investment and ongoing maintenance costs are lower than with conventional centrifugation and dead-end filtration systems. So these are the advantages of microfiltration. Now let us quickly see the key points. Some of the key points to remember. Cross flow. We talked about cross flow membrane filtration, which utilizes tangential flow rather than dead end filtration, which is the case of a filter press. Highest enzyme permeability or passage of the enzyme through the membrane necessary to maximize recovery and yield. So these are some important terms that we should remember. Flux or throughput. Then membrane fouling. Membrane fouling will be there always in unavoidable situation in the membrane. There is a phenomenon called concentration polarization where solutes get deposited on the membrane. Tangential or cross flow velocity. This is also one of the important things. Cross flow velocity we need to maintain. If we can increase the turbulence, then chances of solute deposition may be reduced. Feed concentration, we have to check the feed concentration. Then if required, we have to do some pre-treatment also, pre-treatment of the feed. So the implementation of microfiltration might differ depending on whether the producer is introducing completely new process or upgrading or converting existing process. For a new system, it is more economical to use microfiltration to replace both centrifugation and three-coat filtering steps. But an existing system, when you upgrade, it may be preferable to replace only the three-coat filter, leaving the centrifuge in place. I mean, there can be different combinations. So this allows higher concentration within the microfiltration plant and hence optimize the volume of buffer solution required for a given yield, reducing the demand on the ultrafiltration plant during subsequent concentration. Now, with this, I just introduce the four major pressure-driven membrane process, that is RO, NF, UF, and MF, and their application. Some other processes I will talk later, but now let us focus on how we can combine and how membrane engineering can be useful in the process intensification. Now, membrane engineering and process membrane engineering, we say, like, there are two options. There can be membrane water treatment or all these membrane processes. This can be either as a standalone membrane processes. Standalone membrane means there is no other combination, only a reverse osmosis, standalone system, or it can be an integrated or hybrid membrane system. Now, standalone membrane process is treating water utilizing only membrane process, maybe by MF or UF or maybe RO. But an integrated process means it is combined with some other membrane process, or like microfiltration, RO is combined with NF or MF, or can some non-membrane process. Okay, so we discuss in detail. So individual membrane processes can be aptly considered as a newly established unit operation. This can be considered nowadays because RO, UF, MF, these are now well established processes. So most significant progress has been observed in desalination, where substantial reduction in the overall energy demand, environmental footprint, process hazards has already been accomplished. Now, the key concept of integration of the membrane process. Now, there are three key characteristics of the membrane engineering. greater flexibility, operational simplicity, and mutual compatibility of integration. Now, these distinctive features will offer a great possibility for combination. Combination of membrane technology, combination of these technologies for minimizing the limits of single membrane unit. That's why I'm telling this is an important point to consider, to note that single membrane processes may not be fruitful or may not be successful. I mean, standalone membrane system may not be successful. Instead of that, traditional membrane processes can be combined with other membrane processes. One membrane process can be combined with other membrane processes or can be combined with non-membrane processes. So then that is synergy. So that means here we can get, we can combine 1 plus 1, we can get the result more than 2. That's the synergy effect. Now here in the next slide, okay. Now this is the key concept of integration of the membrane process to accomplish the ambitious objective of redesigning any chemical process using only membrane, conventional membrane operation such as MF, UF, NF, RO, PV, and they can be combined with other innovative membrane processes. So this will be showing in the next few slides. Now here I am showing some probable ways of combination. Now there are two types. We are integration of membrane processes in one membrane process with another membrane process, and then integration of one membrane process with one non-membrane process, or maybe more than one non-membrane process. So both way this integration or combination is possible. I don't consider it as a hybrid process. We consider it as an integrated process, or it is a combination process, combination of various processes. So here, a whole list of combination is given. This membrane process NF plus RO, then MF, NF, RO, then MCR is the membrane crystallization. I will talk to this later. Then membrane bioreactor plus RO, MD RO. Okay. Then there the RO is there almost everywhere. RO is there because RO is a very desirable, very good process, and it is highly it is economical also. Then PRO is pressure retarded osmosis, pressure retarded FO is forward osmosis. Then these can be used for heat treatment, then concentrate post treatment, increased recovery, for increased productivity, energy savings, and then integration of membrane with non-membrane process like flocculation and coagulation, filtration can be combined prior to RO, then adsorption can be combined prior to NA, flocculation, sedimentation, ion exchange, distillation, pervaporation. I said the distillation and pervaporation is possible for alcohol, dehydration, or some other purposes also. Now this integration of membrane with non-membrane process, reduction of membrane fouling, so it will reduce the load on the membrane. So throughput and flux enhancement will be there. Then small footprint requirement, increase water recovery factor, and renewable energy production. Then zero liquid discharge. Zero liquid discharge is nowadays a concept for some wastewater process. We don't need any liquid discharge. So for that also it is possible. So there are different combinations there are different ways of combination. Now let us look that this is the RO desalination plant. RO is the leader in the desalination market. Now you see RO desalination, 60% of the total number of worldwide plants in that RO is used. Whereas other process, thermal process is very limited, 34%. Is limited to the regions with abundant sources of fossil fuels like Middle East countries. Now, this is a schematic diagram of the RO desalination plant. Now you see, where is our membrane unit? You just see our membrane unit here, RO element at the last. Now, before you take your seawater into the membrane unit, there is a whole lot of processes, lot of pre-treatment processes are there. After that only you can. So you are combining RO with filtration, with flocculation, with coagulation, and dosing, different things are there. So you can see that chlorination treatment is there, then some pre-treatment process is being carried out, some again some treatment is there, then there is some filtration, cartridge filter, and after that so you are treating the feed so that the load on the membrane will be less. So if you take directly, then the membrane will be immediately plugged, or immediately there will be no separation. So that's why this is a combination in this process. Now, RO desalination, although we are lot of things we talk about RO, much touted success, lot of success story of RO is there. Really, it is a successful operation, but still it suffers from several disadvantages. What does it lack? Now, first of all, it operations at very high pressure, then high energy consumption since it is high pressure operation, and limited recovery factor. Then you are also producing lot of concentrated brine. What to do with that brine? Treatment of the concentrated steam. Not only brine, along with brine there may be some other salt impurities. Okay, some other halides or some uh, other salts will be there. So what to do with that? So that will be the problem. So these are the uh, okay. So attempts. So there are several attempts and several research investigations have been initiated to tackle these challenges. So what can be some of the options I am writing here? Optimizing the operating conditions and process design, then introducing better control systems, like to incorporate the variation in the feed water salinity, then large set point changes, integrating the process with renewable energy resources. We can think of solar energy, integrated wind solar energy generation, then impact of energy recovery devices. Then we can work on membrane. We can improve the permeability. Can we possible to develop more permeable membrane, or we can control the fouling, killing control, brine management can be there, pump efficiency can be. So these are the different areas where investigations and research is going on. And these two are the less focused areas of research. So these are the gray areas of RO process where not much work has been done, I mean fruitful work. So one is post-treatment, one is pre-treatment, and second one is post-treatment. RO pre-treatment and RO post-treatment. Now let us see. Now RO pre-treatment, why it is required? So as I just showed you the desalination of seawater, we have to remove the inorganic organic membrane foulant and to reduce the load on the membrane. So a whole lot of impurities are there that we need to remove. So conventional pre-treatment process, this is rotating screen, then chemical additives, then some precipitation process, then flocculation or coagulation, and then some filter, maybe sand filter or cartridge filter. Now, can we think of replacing all these with some membrane process? So that is the question. MF can be used, high molecular weight solute or larger size solute can be handled, and then UF also can do, or can we use both combination? Then second question, can we use MBR as an option, membrane bioreactor as an option? Can we use NF as an option? So these are various options and various alternatives that we can see for integration. And lot of papers, research papers are also coming up with this. So NF as a pre-treatment, just I will give one or two examples. Utilization of nanofiltration can be used as a in pre-treatment stage. Removal of turbidity, it can be used for microorganisms to some extent. Hardness, most multivalent ions can be removed. This reduces the osmotic pressure of the RO feed so that the system can be operated at higher recovery factor. Now, according to one study, the recovery factor of a coupled system, that is combination of RO and NS, seawater desalination system is 10% higher, 10 to 12% higher than SWRO. SWRO means spiral wound reverse osmosis. Spiral wound membrane is, is a very widely used, popular, very spiral wound reverse osmosis plant based on conventional pretreatment. So this can be used. Then so next is MBR. We can explore MBR as a pretreatment. Membrane bioreactor for wastewater treatment. It's a combination of suspended growth biological treatment method. Now usually an activated sludge with membrane filtration equipment. It's a low pressure MA for UF membrane. Now here are two schematics are presented. Now here the membranes are used to perform the physical solid liquid separation function. Now in this case, in both the cases you can see, in the first case, membrane module is kept at the outside, and in the second case it is embedded, it is inside. So MBR as RO pretreatment can provide disinfected effluent of high quality. Bacteria and even viruses can also be removed at for certain cases. It can remove a variety of anthropogenic organic pollutants and fouling agents. So this also can be used. Now MBR typically operates using a submerged membrane module with bundles of freely suspended hollow fiber membranes which flow from outside to in. Now this module can be used for other purposes, some other applications like immersed membrane distillation, membrane reactor, immersed condition, nanofiltration, immersed electrodialysis, and so on. Now, if we talk about RO post treatment, our major problem is in RO is that lot of concentrated streams that we generate. What to do with this? And then those things can be, then there comes the question of post-treatment. So there is direct contact membrane distillation. This can be one option, and there can be membrane crystallization. This can also be. So membrane distillation, it is being investigated as one of the best known methods for process intensification. It is widely considered as an alternative to RO and evaporation. Now this is DCMD, actually it's called direct contact membrane distillation. It's a combination of evaporation, combining evaporation of volatile species on one surface of a porous non-weighted hydrophobic membrane with its condensation in the distillate stream on the other surface of the membrane. Yes. Now, in membrane distillation, there are these three steps. If we summarize in brief, so first is formation of a vapor gap at the hot feed solution membrane interface. Then transport of the vapor phase through the microporous system, and then condensation of the vapor at the whole side membrane permeate solution interface. So it's a thermally driven process in which water vapor transport occurs through a non-weighted porous hydrophobic membrane. As the driving force is not a pure thermal driving force, membrane distillation can be held at a much lower temperature than conventional thermal distillation. The hydrophobic nature of membrane prevents penetration of the pores by aqueous solution due to surface tension. Now these are, this is one schematic of the membrane distillation. Is the feed side and permeate side module is there. So see this one, and there are two types. One is SGMD, sweeping gas membrane distillation or sweep gas membrane distillation, and second one is vacuum membrane distillation. Means you have to either use sweeping gas in this side or use vacuum on this side to collect the vapor from the other side, permeated vapor. Okay, so advantages of membrane distillation. 100% rejection of ions, then macromolecules, colloids, cells, and other non-volatile compounds, lower operating temperature than in conventional evaporation or distillation, as it is not required to heat the processed liquids above their boiling temperature. Then less membrane fouling owing to the use of larger pore size membranes compared to RO and UA. Low operating pressure across the membrane. Then membrane distillation permeate flux is slightly affected by the salt concentration, unlike the other processes, other membrane processes. So in membrane distillation, it is used mainly in research, academic laboratory study, like in desalination. So not much research, not much commercial application has been made, but still there is lot of potential. Concentration of aqueous solution in food industry, then acid manufacturing, volatile compounds, separation from aqueous solution, organic and heavy metal separation. Also sometimes it is there are many papers where it is used for treatment of radioactive waste also. But the problem is that little acceptance because low permeate flux compared to other separation process like RO, and also that proper membrane selection is another issue. Now this is the MD membrane distillation, membrane electrospinning of ultrafine membrane. So biomedical, energy, protective coating. So various applications are there. Okay. So next, so this is a scheme of integrated membrane system for desalination. You can see that microfiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis, these three, and membrane crystallization, all these three are combined together for this integrated process. Next, membrane crystallization. Let me say a few things on membrane crystallization. Conceptually, it is the aim is to promote the formation or nucleation of the crystal, formation of crystals from supersaturated solution. The concept of membrane crystallization, it combines the principles of mass and heat transport to membranes with the theory of heterogeneous nucleation, which occurs at the interface. So the selective, so crystallization of some solution is driven by supersaturation, is defined by as the ratio between the actual solute concentration and the ratio of C and C star, that is saturated solute concentration. So actually there will be supersaturation, and then there will be crystal growth or nucleation that will take place. Now in these there are certain advantages like small induction time for appearance of crystals compared to other crystallization techniques, and possibility of growing crystals using smaller quantity of liquor, and this is mostly applied in proteomics, that is the protein study, discovery of protein molecules, and large number of extraction pores or solvent is removed the vapor phase. It increases the crystal growth rate. Mostly application in the crystallization of proteins, recovery of crystalline material from brine in seawater desalination, manufacturing of pharmaceutical and agrochemical compounds, specific polymorph preparation, some kind of polymeric material, enantiomer crystals, etc. So mostly these applicable, but the concept is good. Using membrane, you are allowing the crystals to grow, allowing supersaturation. And then another concept is sea mining. Sea mining is a new term. Mining, we all know that mining industry, mining by the mine, but mining industry is under extreme stress due to excessive exploitation of minerals. The volume of brine is increasing across the globe. Now, sea mining means, sea water contains lot of minerals just to recover those minerals. In this, that is the point. So, brine contains number of essential as well as strategic elements: sodium, magnesium, radium, lithium, and even strontium, and can thus serve as a form of open sky mine for the recovery of these components. And there are a lot of research going on for sea mining. For example, the use of strontium has increased in the oil and gas industry as owing material in mud. like traditional sources of lithium might not be enough in the near future to fulfill its requirement, yes, especially in the hybrid vehicle. So we can think of extraction of lithium from sea. So that is the concept. Okay, so I skip this slide to comparative analysis of the potential. Next, let me talk on forward osmosis. If you slides on. So this is forward osmosis. It is very closely related to osmosis. Actually, we call it engineered osmosis. Engineered osmosis. That means we are allowing the osmosis to take place. So different from pressure-driven RO process, forward osmosis is an osmotically driven natural process for water transfer to a semi-permeable membrane, which arises from the feed water of low concentration and a draw solute. So there will be one draw solute which will draw the solvent from high concentration side, and there will be separation. So using seawater RO brine as a draw solution, FO can be applied in dewatering or concentrating a variety of wastewater resources like landfill leachate, activated sludge from anaerobic digester, and which can be successfully further treated. Okay, so FO is an inherently simple natural process in which membrane and draw solution feature the two most important elements, and there will be semi-permeable membrane which is positioned in between two solutions of different concentration of different osmotic pressure, a concentrated solution in a dilute solution. So I will show you this figure. Okay, so this is the schematic of forward osmosis, where you can see that membrane, it separates these two in the feed solution, and then on this side there is a draw solution. This is draw solution, and then from through membrane, this is the solvent is penetrating to this, permeating to the membrane, and draw solution can be recovered also. And so RSF stands for reverse solute flux. There can be little amount of some amount of reverse flux is also possible. So we have to select the membrane to reduce the reverse solute flux. Forward osmosis, cellulosic membranes, thin composite membranes, biomimic membranes can be used. There are we have to select the this draw solute selection is one of the important consideration for forward osmosis. There can be different types of draw solutes for this brine, organic, different salt solution, EDTA solution, okay, different electrolytes, polyelectrolyte solutions, urea solution. I mean, many things can be used. Even nowadays, this deep eutectic solvent can be used. Ionic liquid can be used as a draw solute. So selection of draw solute is important in forward osmosis. And then concept. So this is one of our recent publication in this concept of fertilizer drawn forward osmosis. So here wastewater feed is used, and then some blended fertilizer solution, blend of potassium chloride and monoammonium phosphate, NAP, potassium chloride, and this blended fertilizer solution is used as a draw solute. And then this, because this water is permeating through this membrane from wastewater feed, this is getting the draw solute is getting diluted. So this diluted fertilizer solution can be used as a fertilization, and then we can use it as a nanofiltration section to recover this, and then we can use as the fertigation purpose. So next is pressure retarded osmosis. Pressure retarded osmosis is another concept. It's an intermediate osmotic process between forward osmosis and reverse osmosis. It's similar to RO. An external hydraulic pressure is applied on the high salinity draw solution side, but the hydraulic pressure is lower than the osmotic pressure gradient across the membrane, and as a result, the net water flow is in the direction of lower salinity solution feeds water to pressurizing high salinity draw solution. Okay. Now, the renewed interest in PRO, that is pressure retarded osmosis, with the advancement of membrane fabrication technology in recent years, and there are various lot of research. In one example I have given, in 2012 Japan started megaton water project employing seawater reverse osmosis concentrate and treated wastewater for osmotic power recovery. This is also another application. Pressure retarded osmosis, this technique uses a semi-permeable membrane to separate a less concentrated solution or solvent, for example, fresh water from a more concentrated or pressurized solution, for example, seawater. And so in PRO, the water potential between fresh water and seawater corresponds to a pressure of around 26 bar, and this pressure is equivalent to a column of water 270 meters high. However, the optimal working pressure is only half of this. Okay, so this high osmotic pressure is low solute concentration to low osmotic pressure in high solute concentration. Now there is reverse electrodialysis when salt water is feed in between a pair of these ion exchange membranes with fresh water on the other side of either membrane, then ions will passively diffuse from the salt water into the fresh water. Now this diffusive transport of ions will be preferential due to the ion exchange membrane. The positively charged ions will only be able to diffuse through EM, and likewise the negatively charged ions will pass to the EM, anodic electromagnetic. The opposing transport of the positively and negatively charged ions create the positively and negatively charged poles. Now in the reverse electrodialysis, a salt solution and a fresh water are allowed through a stack of alternating cation and anion exchange membranes, and it is important to remember that the process works through difference in ion concentration instead of electric field. Now there is energy production in desalination sector, and this can be achieved by mixing two streams with different salinity gradients. The power generated in terms of blue energy or salinity gradient power. Blue because this because you are using seawater, that's why it's called blue energy. And PRO and RED are the two most interesting membrane operations to harness this energy. And integration of these operations with conventional and emerging desalination operations, this produces a synergic effect. Besides reducing the net energy consumption of the desalination process, these operations also make desalination more clean and green by producing electricity with zero carbon emission and by diluting the concentrated brine, which otherwise is a nuisance. Now the combination of PRO and RED with membrane-based desalination system like RO and membrane distillation, synergic advantage to both systems can be obtained in the logic of process intensification. But again, I should say that these are all in research scale. Commercial application is not much advanced. Integrated application of MD with RO and RED. So this is a conceptual diagram. And see this slide. So this integrated application of MD with RO, the energy consumption in RO or MD can be reduced, controlling the operating conditions, and you can use appropriate pretreatment techniques, design optimal membranes and modules. The potential and hence the output power from RED unit can be improved by the development and use of highly permeable and low resistance ion exchange membrane. Now, besides the benefit obtained at high temperature for both systems, the coupled system also enables the possibility to use and convert waste to electricity. Now, this is the schematic diagram of hybrid RO, MD, PRO, reverse osmosis, membrane distillation, and pressure retarded osmosis. The objective of this project, this was of one project in Japan. The objective of this project was to evaluate the feasibility of the RO, MD, PRO hybrid process in terms of reducing the discharge water concentration and the energy conversion in the hybrid process. concentrated RO brine enters the ND feed site, and further concentrated ND brine is then utilized as pressure retarded osmosis draw solution, while the wastewater effluent is used as the feed solution. So this is the new approach that RO removes fresh water, concentrating salt, and DOC. DOC is dissolved organic compound, and then reverse osmosis and electrodialysis both are used. ED removes salts with minimal loss of uncharged CP. Now this is again a scheme of an integrated membrane desalination system where we can see that micro or ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, reverse osmosis, membrane conductor, membrane crystallizer, membrane distillation, almost all the major processes are being used. Okay, so seawater desalination is probably the best example of integrated membrane system. Under the limitation imposed by scaling problem, is a huge problem. Scaling problem is the most serious problem. RO plants typically operate with a water recovery factor in the range of 30 to 40. This is not very high. So appropriate anti-scalene can be added or coupled with NF nanofiltration. It can remove a large proportion of multivalent ions and thus decreasing the potential for precipitation of salts characterized by the low solubility, such as calcium sulfate and calcium carbonate. But overall, RA typically does not exceed 50%. After all this also, it can just improve up to 50%. So that's why there are a lot of scope to improve the process operational efficiency of the process to increase the recovery factor. Then the use of membrane-aided crystallization, which is an interesting extension of membrane distillation, concentration up to supersaturation. It can allow the recovery of NaCl and magnesium sulfate from brine. So now I will show one or two examples in some other industry. Typical current methodology for water reclamation in a textile unit. Textile unit, lot of dyes, lot of salts, but lot of things are in water is there. So there is treatment is elaborate treatment is required. Activated sludge, settling tank, sand filter, nanofiltration. These are used in the traditional method, and now this can be integrated system for various membrane processes. You can it's a conceptual diagram. Textile finishing box, then microfiltration, nanofiltration. We are using 2 nanofiltration here in the series, and then membrane crystallization, also it is membrane distillation. Now let me show you some of the new metrics for process intensification strategy. Now how to quantify this. For quantification, there are certain Brioli has proposed these matrices. So we have mass intensity is the total mass ratio of the total mass to mass of product. It can be in terms of waste intensity, total waste in terms of mass of product, and then productivity size ratio, productivity to size of membrane, and then ratio to productivity to size of the traditional process. And then there are different other parameters, flexibility, modularity, productivity size ratio, similarly productivity weight ratio, then modularity is there. This is just quantifying the membrane processes, the traditional processes for communication purpose. Now, taking into account the entire lifetime of the plant, it is important that it has flexibility and modularity respectively. So it can be adjusted according to changes in the productivity, variation in pressure, temperature, feed composition, or other process parameters. So modularity equations consider changes, either increase or decrease in plant size compared to the productivity. So these are So here another example of integrated membrane process for the production of concentrated fruit juice, we are using ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, and osmotic distillation, OD osmotic distillation, and juice concentration. This is sorry, this is conceptual flow diagram of integrated membrane process for the recycling of spent processed water from fruit juice processing, fruit juice industry. Here also membrane bioreactor, then nanofiltration is used. In between there is some UV treatment is done for disinfection. Then hybrid membrane processes for the production of clear water and aroma concentrate from shrimp cooking juice. Shrimp is it's a seafood. This the shrimp cooking juice then microfilm, so it contains lot of impurities and some organisms and some protein compounds. Then clarified juice, then electrodialysis, and then again finally iron. The process is based on three steps: clarification to remove suspended solids, and electrodialysis, ED desalination, and finally by RO. Then there is integrated process for olive meal wastewater. This can be raw olive meal wastewater, can be first MF, then followed by ultrafiltration, then followed by NF, and then another NF. There are two different sides. That molecular weight cutoff of the membrane will be two different, and then we can feed. So you can see that three membrane processes are there, and these two are in series. Then integrated membrane process can be used for gas, for hydrogen purification also. You know that pressure swing adsorption, is PSA process. Here it is used like membrane separation, hydrogen beach gas, then methane beach gas, which is used, and we can separate hydrogen with 99.99% purity. And so lastly, there is recently we are doing one project on sodium lignosulfonate separation from spent sulfite liquor. So this is one of our projects that we are currently undertaking. This is a sulfite pulping, that means for paper and pulp industry they use this pulping process. And this pulping, after separation of pulp, there is a liquor, we call it black liquor. Actually it's called spent sulfite liquor. Black, very black color, very high COD, and TDS is also very high. And how to treat that? So sodium lignosulfonate is a very useful component. It's used as a binder or as a binder material for various rubber fillers. It can be used for ceramic industry. It is used. So that is it all. So here also one process, we call it valorization of sodium lignosulfonate from spent liquor. So here we are using membrane process, also ultrafiltration membrane. Now if we use ultrafiltration membrane, then evaporation step can be skipped. Like you may not do evaporation. So the liquor is produced, and then liquor is some pre-treatment is done, and then it is taken to ultrafiltration system, and from ultrafiltration to finally, if it is not required, then finally we can take to the spray drying section. So here also you can see the integration of the membrane process and some non-membrane process. It can be used for the valorization or increasing the concentration of the product. Now finally, chemical engineering challenges for these processes, membranes and its application and integration. Understanding and modeling highly selective transport mechanism. Then how to increase the membrane area per unit volume. Then complex modeling for large scale membrane reactor modules. Develop technologies for heat supply and temperature control for large scale modules. Then alternative solutions to eliminate the use of large amount of sweet gas. Developing criteria for choice of optimal size of the membrane reactor, flow patterns and the number of stages, recycles, intermediate feeds, heat pretreatment. So these can be some of the challenging areas for this application of this membrane technology. And finally, the take-home message from this interaction, there can be few rule of thumb or we can say heuristic for a recovery and purification process in general. So this will be the protocol, the major protocol that remove the most plentiful for wastewater treatment also it is like that. The remove the most plentiful impurities first, bulk impurities, and remove the easiest to remove impurities first, and make the most difficult and expensive preparation at the last. So that's why we keep the membrane at the last, and we are having a lot of other pre-treatment processes. So select processes that make the use of greatest differences in the properties of the product and its impurities. Select and sequence processes that exploit different separation driving forces. So all these things we should think. So finally, an unique opportunity for chemical engineers, chemical engineering, chemical industries has knowledge potential, knowledge asset, extraordinary knowledge base, and it is deeply rooted in the stages of in the early stages of industrial revolution. So we have thermodynamics, kinetics, size reduction, transport phenomena. So all these can be applied, for betterment of the process and for improving the efficiency of the process. So with this, I close my presentation, and these are some of our prints of some of these papers which are published in various journals on different membrane processes, Journal of Environmental Chemical Engineering, forward osmosis, then application of nanofiltration in food processing industry, which was published in French in Food Science and Technology. I see this was just telling that fertigation, KCl and potassium chloride and monoammonium phosphate, how it can be used for another application. So these are some of our first. Okay, so with this I close my presentation here, and I am once again I am grateful to the Department of Chemical Engineering, DEC Bharuch, for and also AICT for inviting me, and particularly the coordinator, Naresh Bagela and others. So thank you all. So if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Participants, if you have any query or doubts, kindly ask your question.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Continue.
So Dr. Shweta here from MIT University, Rajasthan.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Yes, madam,
Hello.
please.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Please ask your
Okay.
question.
Sir, in one slide you mentioned that by using this membrane filtration technique, we can purify methane and hydrogen. Or I would like to know more about that.
Yes, madam, that I have not covered in this presentation. That is a gas separation membrane. Gas
Yeah,
separation,
yeah.
okay, gas separation membrane will be there. Polymeric membrane can be used, but I think that is more, ceramic membrane will be more useful in the gas separation. And then, because if you have high temperature gas separation for that membrane will be there, but that is you have to go for gas separation membrane. That is
Okay,
possible.
okay.
And then gas separation membrane, and followed by pressure swing absorption for final stage purification.
Okay, okay. So such type of membranes are available for what, which type of gases? Means can we remove carbon dioxide,
Yes,
methane, hydrogen, and sulfur dioxide?
yes, madam, it is possible, but it is stage wise. In one stage, you have to select membrane which is selective to carbon dioxide, or which is not selective to the other gases. So like that, in first stage you separate carbon dioxide, and then progressively use another membrane. Okay, just for example, I just give example like palladium membrane, palladium strip. So it can separate hydrogen. So you can use palladium membrane for hydrogen separation. So like that, progressively we can use the combination of these membranes and separate. Okay, so that is gas separation membrane.
Okay. So what would be the cost of these membranes?
Um, yes, it's costly. polymeric membrane will be less costly, but these ceramic membranes are, if it is imported membrane, it is costly. And ceramic membrane is used for gas separation. It is more desirable because some gas separation you need high temperature. इसमें high temperature, in high temperature polymeric membrane may not be operating at high temperature because swelling will take place. This is costly. Zeolite membrane is there, then different oxide membranes are there, which is, zirconia silica membrane or maybe titanium oxide membrane. Just now I said palladium strip membrane. These are there, but cost, I do not know exactly the cost, but you can inquire, it is there.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Rohit sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, conclude the session. I think there is no more questions.
Thank you, sir, for such a knowledgeable and good session on membrane separation techniques. Sir has very well explained and covered the topics like importance of separation and why separation is to be carried out, and advanced separation by using membrane processes and its advantages. Sir has also explained the process of integrated membrane processes, how we can use the integration of different membranes to carry out the separation processes. Thank you, sir. Chemical Engineering Department. On the behalf of Chemical Engineering Department, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and enlighten us. Thank you
Thank you,
so
thanks
much.
for all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.